Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we step into a world where myths breathe, where clouds drift above Olympus, and secrets hide in the shimmer of the sky. This story is not of thunder's roar or lightning's blaze. It is about something softer, more mysterious, the voice that even Zeus, king of the gods, could not ignore. Zeus is known for power, the thunderbolt in his hand, the endless sky as his throne. Yet even he wondered, can a god escape the threads of destiny? Can the master of storms command the winds of fate? Or must he listen when fate whispers softly through the breeze? Our tale begins not with war, but with silence. A hush falls across the heavens, carrying a murmur that is not wind, not thunder, but something greater. It is a voice everywhere and nowhere at once. Zeus listens. For the first time, he feels the presence of something larger than his reign. This is where our journey begins. This is the story of time's Zeus and the voice of fate asterisk. The sky above Olympus was more than clouds and light. It was alive with whispers, with shifting colors, with echoes as old as time. On some days, the heavens stretched wide, golden rays crowning the peaks. On others, mist-curled silver, veiling the mountain like a keeper of secrets. This was one of those days. The air felt calm yet heavy, as if the sky itself held its breath. High upon his throne, Zeus sat in thought, master of thunder, king of gods. Most stories of Zeus begin with lightning in hand and storms in his voice. But today, he was still. His eyes followed drifting clouds, sailing like ancient ships across a boundless sea. For all his might, something unsettled stirred inside him. A feeling unspoken, yet undeniable. Even in his endless sky, something lay beyond his reach. The wind brushed softly through his hair. To mortals, he was majesty itself, tall, crowned, unshaken. Yet his heart asked, asterisk, what lies beyond my rule? Asterisk. Zeus had known doubt before. He had wrestled with shadows, faced mysteries, claimed Olympus. But this was different. It was not an enemy. It was not a storm. It was silence. And that silence spoke. A breeze carried a murmur, faint as a leaf across the sky. Zeus lifted his head. The sound came again, soft, steady, impossible to ignore. He rose from his throne, robe flowing like cloud on marble. He walked the halls of Olympus, not with anger, but wonder. At the mountain's edge, he gazed into valleys and seas below. He closed his eyes. The murmur grew clearer. Not wind, not thunder. A voice. It spoke no titles, no praise. It called him simply time's Zeus. Asterisk. The sound rang not in his ears, but in his chest. He searched the sky, but found only shifting light. Who speaks? He asked. Voice strong yet cautious. No answer. Only his name again, patient as the tide. He frowned, not with anger, but with thought. He, who commanded storms, now stood before the unseen. It was not defiance he felt, nor threat. It was presence. The clouds parted, spilling sunlight like gold across his shoulders. And the voice returned. Asterisk. You are mighty, but not alone in might. You hold the sky, yet not the thread of time. Listen, and you will hear. Asterisk. The words rippled through him like waves across still water. He, the god of command, was now the listener. Something inside him shifted. Not fear, not doubt, a seed of knowing that even gods could not hold all. The breeze fell quiet. The voice withdrew. Only silence remained. But it was not emptiness. It was a silence full of questions. A silence that opened paths. Zeus turned back, his steps slow, his mind burning with wonder. He did not speak of what he had heard. Not yet. The words were too vast, too delicate to share. Instead, he carried them inside, like a secret flame in the dark. And so, the sky above Olympus shone serene. But in Zeus's heart, a new storm stirred. Not of lightning, not of rain, but of curiosity and of fate. The days on Olympus were calm, yet the echo of the voice lingered in Zeus. It had not spoken with malice. It had not spoken with praise. It had spoken with truth. Zeus, master of storms, was not used to mystery. He summoned thunder with ease. He hurled lightning across the sky. But this voice did not obey. It came when it wished. It left when it wished. And in its absence, it left a silence that pressed on his heart. On the third evening, Zeus walked alone in the gardens of Olympus. Golden leaves shimmered in eternal sunlight. Crystal streams sang softly. It was peace. But for Zeus, it was more. The breeze stirred. Among flowers that never withered, the whisper returned. It was soft, patient, clear. It did not roar like the seas. It did not thunder like storms. It whispered, Zeus. Again, his name, spoken like an invitation. He stilled, letting it sink into him like rain. This time he did not ask who spoke. This time he listened. The voice flowed through the air. Asterisk. You hold the heavens, yet no hand can bind the horizon. You rule the storm, yet storms pass beyond your sight. Avon might must listen. Zeus lowered his head in thought. The words were not accusation. They were not command. They were truth. And truth weighed heavier than stone. He walked slowly along the garden path. Olympus had always been his fortress. Now it felt like a teacher. The air itself carried meaning. Why do you speak to me? He asked. The breeze stirred again. With kindness. Asterisk. Even kings must hear what lies beyond their crown. Even gods must walk where destiny wins. I do not rule you, Zeus. I remind you. Asterisk. The thought struck him. He was worshipped, feared, honored. Yet the voice said he must be reminded. Reminded of what? As if hearing his thought, it replied, asterisk. Remember humility. Power is not a mountain standing alone, but a river flowing with others. Even gods are threads in a greater weaving. Asterisk? Zeus stopped walking. His eyes lifted to the horizon. He had always seen himself as the center, but now he felt smaller, and in that smallness, wiser. He drew a deep breath. The air no longer pressed heavy. It carried freedom, the freedom to learn, the freedom to listen. The whisper faded, leaving silence. Yet it was not emptiness. It was silence, filled with promise. Zeus returned to his throne at twilight. The other gods laughed and feasted, but he sat quietly, listening to the memory of the breeze. He looked at Hera, at Athena, at Apollo. Did they hear it too? Or was the voice meant only for him? Night fell. Stars blossomed across the sky. Zeus felt no fear. The voice had not come to unseat him. It had come to guide him. His hand rested on the throne. The storm inside him was no longer power breaking free. It was curiosity. The curiosity of a king learning to listen. And as the winds carried the last sigh of evening, Zeus whispered, I will listen. The silence answered, full not of emptiness, but of fate yet to unfold. The days turned to nights, and nights to days, yet the voice lingered in Zeus, like an echo that would not fade. Even in silence, the memory stirred within him. Zeus was a god of certainty. He knew the weight of his power. He knew the reach of his command. Storms gathered at his will. Mortals prayed, and he answered. Yet the voice unsettled him more than thunder ever could. He walked Olympus with steps both strong and restless. The gods feasted and laughed. Their joy did not reach him. He smiled for them. But questions hid behind that smile. Was it truly fate that spoke? And if so, why him? Why not Hera with her gaze? Why not Athena with her wisdom? Why not Apollo with his songs of prophecy? Were they not bound to destiny too? Yet the whispers came to him, and him alone, at night. When Olympus lay hushed, Zeus sat by the tall columns. He gazed into the boundless dark. Where did the voice begin? Where would it lead? The constellations glittered above, jewels on velvet skies, each one a story older than himself. Stories of mortals, of gods, of victories, of loss. Stories woven by a thread unseen yet unbreakable. The thread of fate. A thought troubled him. Could his reign be woven too? Was his power not freedom? but part of a tapestry too vast to see? The unease grew like a storm cloud. Not violent, not dark, only heavy, waiting to break. One evening, Hera came to him. She saw the way his eyes wandered. She saw his hands restless with thought. "Zeus," she said softly, "why does your face grow clouded while the skies are clear?" He looked at her. For a moment, he said nothing. How could he speak of the voice? How could he tell her words had come from beyond even his storms? At last, he answered, "The winds carry whispers, Hera. Not of mortals, not of storms. Something older, something greater. I hear them, but I do not know their end." Hera tilted her head. Her eyes narrowed, wise and careful, but she said nothing more. She placed her hand upon his. Her touch was steady, grounding him. When she left, Zeus remained in silence, grateful, but knowing this path was his alone. At dawn, he climbed higher on the mountain. Even Olympus seemed to bow beneath the open sky. Clouds lay beneath his feet. Horizon stretched endless before his eyes. He breathed deeply. The air was crisp, alive, yet the unease clung to him. He listened. No whisper came, only the hush of the world at rest. But memory stirred. Asterisk. You are mighty, but not alone in might. Listen, and you will hear. Asterisk. He closed his eyes. He felt less like a ruler, more like a seeker, the king of gods, searching not for conquest, but meaning. And he understood. The unease was not weakness. It was not fear. It was growth. Growth breaks certainty to make room for something new. The dawn broke across the mountain. Light spilled golden, soft, reassuring. The unease remained, but it felt different. Less like a storm, more like a guide. He stood tall against the horizon, waiting, listening, ready for the voice to return. Olympus glittered. Golden halls bathed in sunlight. Laughter rose from endless feasts. Music carried by Apollo's lyre. Yet for Zeus, the brightness seemed dim. A shadow of thought lingered in his mind. He had heard the voice twice. It spoke not as rival, not as servant, but as something greater, something beyond. Though he listened, though he pondered, his heart stayed restless. At last, he called the gods to council. The great hall of Olympus filled with divine light. Columns rose like marble trees. The floor shimmered with shifting stars. The 12 Olympians gathered, each carrying presence, each carrying power. Hera sat beside Zeus, Gaza steady, sharp. Athena stood tall, wisdom in her eyes. Apollo's lyre glowed with sunlight at his touch. Artemis lingered in shade, bow at her shoulder. Poseidon brought scent of salt, sound of waves. Hermes leaned against a column, eyes quick, sandals ready. Others too, each a thread of the divine family. When silence fell, Zeus rose. "My kin, I call you not for war, nor feast, but counsel." A voice speaks to me, not of mortals, not of storms, but of fate itself. It comes to me, and I cannot turn away. A hush spread through the hall. The gods exchanged glances, curious, doubtful. Ares frowned, hand tight on his spear. Voices are tricks, Zeus. Enemies seek to cloud the mind. Athena stepped forward, tone measured. Not every whisper deceives. Some truths arrive softly. Poseidon rumbled like the sea. If it is fate, why speak only to you? Are we not bound as well? Zeus nodded slowly. That question keeps me restless. Hermes grinned, eyes sharp. Perhaps because you listen, Father. Gods hear only what praises them. Laughter rippled, then faded. Zeus's face stayed solemn. Hera spoke steady as stone. Voice or shadow, you must know its purpose. What does it seek? Zeus closed his eyes, remembering. They do not command. They do not threaten. They remind. They speak of humility, power as river, not mountain. Even gods are threads in greater weaving. The hall grew quiet. Some shifted uneasily. Apollo plucked a golden note, letting it linger. Perhaps, Father, it is not warning, but gift. Prophecy is not always thunder. Sometimes it is breeze. Artemis, noted. The wild teaches the same. The hunter must listen or lose her way. Ares scoffed. Voices and riddles. I trust what I can strike. Athena turned to him. Calm. Even battles are bound by strategy. Even war is shaped by forces unseen. The hall filled with debate, doubt, wisdom, pride, care. Zeus listened, yet knew the truth. None had heard the voice but him. When the debate wearied, Zeus lifted his hand. Silence fell. You are right to question. Yet the voice comes not to all, but to me. I do not know why, but I will not ignore it. The gods bowed their heads, not in fear, but in acknowledgement, for they knew Zeus bore the heaviest burden. The council ended. The gods returned to their realm. The hall emptied, laughter fading. Zeus remained, tall, restless, thoughts circling like eagles above peaks. The voice did not return that day, nor the next, but its absence was presence. And as torches flickered in silence, Zeus whispered, If I must walk this path alone, so be it, but I will walk it. The night after the council, Zeus sat alone on his throne. Torches flickered softly, shadows stretched across the marble floor. Olympus was quiet, yet his mind was not. Sleep came slowly, heavy as mist. When it wrapped around him, he fell not into silence, but vision. He dreamed of a vast plain, endless and shining. It was not earth, nor sky, nor sea, nor fire. It was something greater, something that held all worlds together. Across the plain stretched countless threads. They shimmered like rivers of light, weaving in every direction. Some golden, bright with triumph. Some silver, cool with wisdom. Some dark, heavy with sorrow. Altogether, a tapestry without beginning, without end. Zeus walked among them, king of gods, humbled by immensity. Every step stirred a ripple across the threads. They seemed to know him, to feel his presence. He reached for a faint blue thread. A story unfolded. A child born under a star, laughing, learning, thin, fragile, yet glowing with undeniable light. He let it go, and the vision faded. Another thread called scarlet and strong. He touched it. A hero raising a shield, standing against odds. A life of courage, woven into destiny. Thread by thread, story by story, Zeus walked the plain. Then he paused. At the heart of the tapestry glowed a radiant gold thread. It pulsed with thunder and storm. It was his. Zeus reached toward it. The thread vibrated with his touch, stormlight dancing through it. But he saw more. It was not alone. It was interwoven with others, Heras, Athenas, Apollos, mortals and immortals, not free, not separate, bound. The truth struck like lightning. Even his mighty thread could not escape the weave. His story tied to countless others. A voice stirred the plain. The same voice he had heard upon the breeze. Soft, yet fast. Zeus, you see now. Power is not apart. Power is within. Each thread holds meaning, but none stands alone. His hand trembled. He tugged at the golden thread. The whole tapestry shifted. Stories trembled. Lives quivered. Even stars flickered. And he understood. To unbind himself was to unravel all. The voice spoke again. You are king, but not beyond. Mighty, but not alone. To rule is not to sever threads, but to guard them. To listen, to weave. Zeus bowed his head. For the first time, he felt humility. Not as burden, as truth. The vision faded. Threads dissolved into starlight. The plain melted into mist. Zeus opened his eyes. Dawn touched Olympus peaks. The sun rose, painting fire and gold. He sat upon his throne, the dream heavy in his chest. The gods stirred, rising for the day. But Zeus stayed still, thoughtful. He had seen the threads. He had touched the weave. The voice of fate was not whisper. It was truth, waiting for him to carry it. The storm within no longer roared. It pulsed steady, alive with purpose. Zeus had seen the tapestry, and he could never forget it. Beyond the clouds of Olympus, a small village rested in twilight. The mortals there knew nothing of councils or dreams of threads. They knew hunger, hope, and the fragile weight of each day. One such mortal was Callias, a farmer's son. His hands bore the roughness of soil, his back bent with toil, yet in his heart lived belief, a quiet reverence for the gods. The fields that season had been cruel. Rains delayed, the soil cracked, and grain refused to rise. At night, villagers gathered with worry in their eyes. Callias heard his father speak of dwindling stores. He saw his mother hide bread for the youngest child. At midnight, while all slept, he slipped away. He climbed the hill beyond the village. There stood a shrine, old and weathered by countless hands, a place of prayer, offering, hope carried on the wind. Callias knelt, heart pounding. The sky stretched endless, stars scattered like seeds. He raised his voice. "O Zeus, ruler of thunder, hear me." His voice trembled, then steadied. "We are mortals, our days brief, our struggles many. We ask not riches, only rain, only life for our children." His words rose like smoke, fragile, uncertain. He bowed, forehead pressed to stone. His chest carried a prayer for all his village. Above, Olympus stirred. Zeus sat in silence, the memory of threads still fresh. And faint as a breeze, the boy's voice reached him. Zeus listened. He had heard countless prayers across ages, prayers for victory, wealth, vengeance. But this one was different. It carried no sharp desire, no heavy pride. It was woven of humility and care beyond self. He closed his eyes and saw a faint thread glowing steady. The boy's prayer touched others, family, neighbors, generations unborn. Zeus's chest tightened. The voice of fate echoed. "Power is not apart. None stands alone." He lifted his hand, then paused. For the first time, he did not act from command or pride. He acted with thought, with care. Clouds gathered above the village, not in anger, not in storm, but in gift. A soft rain began to fall, silver under moonlight. Callias lifted his head. The scent of wet earth filled his lungs. Tears mingled with rain upon his cheeks. He whispered, "Thank you." Zeus did not answer with thunder. He demanded no worship, no boast of power. He simply listened and let rain fall. In Olympus, gods stirred with curiosity. They saw the gentle rain and wondered. But Zeus spoke nothing of the boy, nor his prayer, for deep within, he understood. The threads of mortals, though fragile, held strength gods must honor. The voice of fate, though silent, seemed to smile. Dawn came. Fields dark with promise glistened. Children laughed, splashing in puddles. Mothers sang as they gathered water. Callias stood quietly, watching clouds drift away. He knew not if the god had truly heard. Yet in his heart, he believed, and belief wove itself into the tapestry. A mortal's prayer, shining quietly, bound to eternity. The halls of Olympus glowed in dawn's light. Clouds drifted like silk, and the air carried the freshness of rain. Yet in her quiet chamber, Hera sat deep in thought. She had watched Zeus carefully in recent days. He laughed less, spoke less, and carried a weight in his chest. Hera was no stranger to shadows. She had borne doubts, loyalties, and the strain of a throne beside a storm. But what troubled her now was not mistrust. It was curiosity. She remembered the council when Zeus spoke of a voice. The others debated, dismissed, argued. Hera had remained silent, watching. She knew her husband's pride, and when it faltered, this time felt different. One evening, as torches burned low, she approached him. Zeus sat alone on a balcony, gazing at the mortal world. Villages glimmered below, fires burning like scattered stars. His face was set, his eyes distant. "Zeus," Hera said softly. He turned, surprised by her tone. "You carry something," she said. "Not anger, not joy, a burden of another kind. Tell me, what is it?" Zeus studied her, storms etched in his face. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then truth broke the silence. "Hera, a voice calls to me. It is not of god or mortal. It speaks of fate." Hera's eyes sharpened. "What visions?" Zeus exhaled, thunder in his breath. "I have seen a tapestry of threads, Mortals and gods woven together. My own thread among them. Not apart, but bound. The queen listened, gaze steady as stone. And what does this voice ask of you? Not obedience, Zeus said. Not worship. It whispers humility. That power is not to rule apart, but to weave with others. Hera weighed his words. She was goddess of bonds, of unity, of ties both heavy and strong. Her heart knew connection's strength and pain. But from Zeus, the Storm King, this was new. Then the question is not of the voice, she said. It is of you. Will you listen? Or dismiss what humbles you? Her words cut sharper than any spear. Zeus flinched, but did not turn away. I do not know, he admitted. Part of me fears it. To accept its truth is to accept limits. I have never lived with limits. Hera stepped closer, placing her hand on his arm. Even kings have limits, Zeus. Even gods. What makes you mighty is not escaping them, but knowing them. Silence stretched heavy yet alive. Zeus looked toward the mortal world below. Rain blessed the fields, the boy's prayer still fresh in his heart. At last, Hera asked the question buried deep. If the voice is fate, then what is your place in it? King or servant? Ruler or thread? The question pierced him deeper than thunder. He could not answer. Not yet. The tapestry showed truth, but not his role. He placed his hand over Hera's. I do not know, he whispered, but perhaps that is the beginning. To not know, and still seek. Hera searched his face. No storm, no mask, only a god caught between power and purpose. She nodded slowly. Then seek. But remember, no voice, no fate, no throne will mean more than the bonds you choose to honor. Zeus bowed his head, not in defeat, but in acknowledgement, for Hera had asked the question he could not escape. And though no answer yet came, it would follow him into every dawn on Olympus. The call spread across Olympus. Not thunder, not trumpet, but a quiet summons like dawn's whisper. Zeus had spoken, and the gods would gather. They came one by one. Athena, sharp-eyed, carrying the calm of wisdom. Apollo, radiant, the fire of prophecy on his brow. Poseidon, rising with waves, trident gleaming in his hand. Hermes, quick as wind, curiosity bright in his eyes. Hephaestus, steady and strong, leaving his forge to join them. At the heart of Olympus, a circle formed, not for feasting, not for war, but for words. The clouds parted, revealing a clear sky. Zeus stood in the center, not as a king commanding, but as one ready to speak truth. My kin! His voice rolled deep yet calm. You have felt the shift. A voice calls to me. It speaks not of conquest, but of fate. The circle stirred. Athena watched. Apollo half smiled. Zeus lifted his hand, as if holding memory. I saw a tapestry, he said. Threads of gods and mortals, woven together. And within it, my own. Hermes tilted his head. A tapestry? Then what of a king if not set apart? Zeus answered softly. The role is not to stand apart, but to stand within. Power is not to break the sky, but to water the earth. Murmurs rippled through the circle. Poseidon narrowed his eyes. Silent. Hephaestus folded his arms, weighing the words. Hera's voice rose clear as a bell. The question is not fate's voice, but Olympus itself. Will we weave together, or remain torn apart? Silence followed, heavy as stone. Each god bore pride, each a domain. To weave meant to share. Sharing was not the way of the immortals. Athena spoke, steady and sure. Wisdom is not solitary. No city stands without walls. No ship sails without oars. Together, we are stronger. Zeus nodded. This is the vision. Fate is not one path, but many, crossing, binding, shaping. Alone, we rage and fade. Together, we are the sky itself. The words burned like firelight. For once, no argument came. Even Ares stood silent at the edge. Apollo broke the stillness. Fate is no stranger to me. If it speaks to you, Zeus, then it is no idle wind. The gathering bowed their heads, not in surrender, but in acknowledgement. The truth was seed, planted in silence. Zeus looked around the circle. He had ruled by thunder, fear, and decree. But here, he ruled by listening. "Let this be the beginning," he said. "Not surrender, but remembrance. Gods are not alone, nor mortals beneath us. All are threads, all are bound. Fate is no single voice, but many." A breeze moved through the hall. No storm, only calm. The gods stood in silence, not with pride or quarrel, but with possibility. Above them, though no voice spoke, the air seemed to hum, as though fate itself smiled on what was yet to come. Far below Olympus, the mortal world stirred with questions. Rains came at the right time. Rivers filled, and the earth softened. The people felt it, though they could not name it. A gentleness in the storm, a balance in the air. In a village by the Aegean, an old storyteller gathered children by the fire. The sea whispered behind them, waves lapping against the rocks. He lifted his hands, his voice heavy with memory. "They say the gods have grown quiet," he began. "Not silent, but listening. And when gods listen, mortals must find their voices." The children leaned closer, eyes wide. "Once, thunder broke the sky, and we trembled. But now the rains fall as blessing, not punishment. Perhaps the king of the sky has learned something new." Across the land, whispers spread. Farmers saw their fields flourish with just enough rain. Sailors found winds carrying them safely to shore. Priests lit fires that burned steady, as if guided by unseen hands. But whispers are fragile things. Some called it chance, fortune's turn for a season. Others feared it was change that even gods could not control. In Delphi, a priestess sat before the sacred flame. She prayed, eyes closed, lips parted. The flame flickered, and a breath came. "Threads," a voice whispered. She gasped, trembling, yet she listened. "Threads, woven together, gods and mortals. Fate is not one hand, but many." She opened her eyes. The flame burned steady again. The words carved themselves into her heart. By morning, travelers carried her message. Fate is not one hand, but many. We are threads. We are bound together. Some scoffed. What is a thread against a god? Others nodded. A thread may be small, but woven together, it cannot be broken. In fields, farmers told the tale. In ports, sailors spread it across the seas. Even rulers in their palaces frowned at the thought. For if mortals were threads, then so too were kings. On Olympus, Zeus watched. He saw not just prayers, but whispers, questions, hopes. He felt not only worship, but reflection. Mortals were beginning to see the tapestry he had seen. It was not control. It was not fear. It was recognition. Zeus turned from thunderclouds toward the quiet earth. The voice of fate stirred not only in the heavens. It rose now in the mortal world. It no longer spoke to him alone. The whisper had become a chorus, not of thunder, but of lives bound together. In that chorus, Zeus heard something new, the sound of unity, fragile, yet enduring. The storyteller by the fire ended his tale. He looked at the children, wonder on their faces. "Remember this," he said softly. "The gods do not stand above us. They stand with us. We are threads. Together, we are strong." The night sky stretched above, stars like countless threads of light. The whisper moved on from mouth to mouth, heart to heart, weaving mortals into the great tapestry of fate. High upon Olympus, clouds rolled like silver seas. The air shimmered with energy, carrying whispers of gods and mortals. Zeus stood at the edge of the mountain, listening deeply. For centuries, he ruled through thunder and law. Now he heard something else, an echo rising from below. It was not prayer alone. It was unity. Hera approached with calm dignity. "You are unsettled," she said. "The world is changing," Zeus replied. "Mortals speak of threads and shared fate. It is no longer fear that binds them, it is something greater." "You fear it diminishes you?" Hera asked. Zeus shook his head. "No, I fear it transforms me." Far away, Apollo played his lyre. Golden notes drifted like sunlight. weaving with mortal whispers. Athena stepped into the light of his throne. "This chorus is not a threat," she said. "They see themselves as part of the whole." "What does it mean if destiny is shared?" Zeus asked softly. "It means the tapestry grows stronger," Athena replied. Hera's voice softened. "They do not rise against you, Zeus. They rise with you." The winds of Olympus shifted. Below, children laughed, fires burned, and fields thrived. Poseidon sent waves rolling gently on the shore. "Storms can carry ships home," he murmured. Artemis stood in her forest, bow lowered. Even the wild bowed to the balance of fate. One by one, the gods felt the change. It was not loud, but steady, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Zeus looked across the heavens. The constellations shone like woven threads of light. "Then I will not resist," he declared. "Let gods and mortals be threads together." The air stilled as Olympus seemed to breathe. Thunder quieted, but power remained. Zeus no longer stood above. He stood within. Hera touched his arm gently. "You are not less," she whispered. "You are more, because you listen." The echoes carried on across earth and sky. Threads of gods, threads of mortals, threads of fate. For the first time, Olympus was quiet, yet full of voices, full of unity. And Zeus, once thunderous king, stood in harmony, listening to the song of fate that bound them all. The dawn broke over Olympus with a brilliance unlike any before. Light spilled across marble halls and golden peaks, touching every god with quiet glow. It was as though the heavens wished to reveal a hidden truth. In the great hall, the gods gathered at Zeus's call. No thunder rolled. No storm clouds loomed. The air shimmered with anticipation, like a pause before unveiling. Zeus rose, steady, no longer overbearing. He carried silence like a crown, listening before speaking. "My kin," he began, voice resonant yet gentle. "For ages we ruled, believing fate spun by hands beyond us. We bowed, we feared, we tried to shape it." He looked across the hall. Hera, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Poseidon. "But fate has spoken," Zeus said. "It is no single thread, no chain. It is a tapestry woven of gods, mortals, even stars." A ripple moved through the assembly. Faces showed wonder, some doubt, but none could deny the growing echo across earth and sky. Athena stepped forward, calm and clear. "This tapestry is strength, not weakness," she said. "Mortals, in their smallness, weave threads that matter." Apollo plucked a golden note from his lyre. It rang through the hall, pure and bright. "The music of fate is a chorus, not a solo." Hera lifted her chin, eyes sharp yet softened. "To weave together is to hold more than thunder," she said. Silence followed. Then something stirred in the chamber. A glow formed at the center, soft, then brighter, not summoned by Zeus, nor any god. It rose like dawn breaking within the hall. Threads of light wove themselves in air, gold and silver, crimson and blue, braiding together. A vast tapestry shimmered alive before their eyes. They gasped, seeing rivers, stars, and mortal faces. Laughter, tears, and endurance stitched into the weave. Each god saw their domain, but never alone. Sea into sky, forest into mountain, moon into tide, all bound together, seamless, unending. Zeus stepped close, awe softening his frame. He touched a single thread of lightning. It glowed brighter, not dominating, but joining. Silence deeper than thunder filled the hall. The gods understood. They were not rulers apart. They were threads within. The tapestry pulsed like a heartbeat. Then still, it remained, hovering eternal, as if always there. Zeus turned back to his kin. This is what fate intends. Not power above, but power within. Not command, but connection. The gods bowed their heads, not in submission, but reverence. Even Poseidon lowered his gaze to the weave. Artemis closed her eyes, hearing its silent song. For the first time, Olympus felt whole. Not rivals, but voices bound together. Below, mortals laughed, sowed, sailed, unaware of the vision above, yet part of it. The tapestry glowed, eternal, weaving gods and mortals alike. Zeus smiled, not as conqueror, but as one who finally understood. The air over Olympus was calm, almost sacred, as though the mountain itself had paused to listen. No storm lingered, no thunder rolled. The skies, once fierce with Zeus's power, now seemed at peace, brushed with the soft glow of dawn. Zeus stood before the gods, his presence no longer defined by dominance, but by the quiet strength of one who had learned to listen. The great tapestry shimmered before them still, threads of light woven across the air, glowing softly, alive with the voices of mortals and immortals alike. The gods had seen many wonders, but this vision was unlike any other. It was not a weapon, nor a throne, nor a crown of power. It was connection. Hera stood by Zeus's side, her gaze fixed upon the shifting weave. For the first time, she saw her dominion not as separate, but intertwined with every other thread. Marriage, family, loyalty, these were not laws imposed, but bonds lived in every heartbeat of the mortal world. She reached for Zeus's hand, and for once, he did not resist. Apollo's lyre echoed gently, his music no longer meant to command silence, but to join with the hum of voices that filled the tapestry. The golden notes were not the song itself, they were part of a chorus. No greater, no less. Athena stepped forward, eyes sharp as always, yet softened by wonder. She had guided mortals toward wisdom, imagining herself as the architect of their thoughts. Yet now, she saw wisdom not as a gift bestowed from above, but as something born from the meeting of many minds. The tapestry showed her truths she had never spoken. That knowledge was strongest when shared. Poseidon gazed at the flowing waves of blue threads that moved through the weave. He saw tides, not merely as his command, but as the breath of the world itself, flowing in rhythm with mortals who fished, sailed, and prayed. The sea, he murmured, is not mine alone. It belongs to all who live with it. His voice carried a rare humility. Artemis stood in silence, her silver bow lowered, her eyes tracing the threads of forest and moon woven through the light. She, who had always walked apart, saw now that even solitude was connected. The quiet of the hunt, the shadow of the trees, the glow of the night sky, all were part of the same eternal weave. The tapestry pulsed again, as though alive with their realizations. Mortals laughed, cried, dreamed within its shifting glow. The gods, for all their power, were no longer the weavers alone. They were threads, just as vital, but not greater. Zeus stepped closer. His hand trembled slightly as he reached once more toward the glowing strands. A single bolt of lightning ran down his arm, not to strike, but to blend. The light did not flare in dominance. It joined, harmonized, became part of the pattern. This, Zeus said at last, his voice carrying through the hall, is the voice we heard, the voice of fate. It does not command us. It invites us. The words echoed through the chamber, sinking deep into immortal hearts. Fate was not a chain. It was not a prophecy etched in stone. It was a living chorus, shaped by every choice, every voice, every thread. The gods bowed their heads, not in fear, but in reverence. The silence that followed was not heavy. It was full, alive, breathing. For the first time, Olympus was not divided by rivalry, nor weighed down by pride. It was whole. Zeus stood not above, but within. Hera's hand was in his. Apollo's notes drifted like sunlight. Athena's wisdom shone with humility. Poseidon's sea rolled steady. Artemis's forest stood strong and serene. And below, the world turned. Mortals lived, loved, and carried on, unaware of the vision that had changed Olympus. Yet their voices, their lives, were stitched forever into the weave. The tapestry glowed once more, then stilled, eternal, enduring, a reminder that fate was not a decree, but a song sung together. Zeus lifted his gaze to the horizon. No thunder answered, only the quiet harmony of voices rising as one, the voice of fate. And for the first time, Zeus smiled not as a king, but as a thread in the eternal weave.